Now reporting, George Stephanopoulos.
Good morning. We're coming on the air right now because President Trump is about to appear in the East Room of the White House the day after those 2018 midterm elections, which are a split decision for Congress. Democrats gaining control of the House, gaining 28 seats right there, still about 11 seats outstanding, likely to be in the 30s before it's all over. Republicans picking up 2 seats. In the Senate, there are still 3 Senate seats outstanding. Their majority could grow by a couple more as well. And in the governor's races across the country last night, the Democrats have picked up 7 state houses from the GOP. Georgia is still outstanding. They're still counting the votes in Georgia. Possibility there could be a runoff in that state, though we don't have that yet. The president has been up and tweeting already this morning, calling his victories last night, especially in those Senate races, a tremendous success, but also taking off Cecilia Vega, our senior White House correspondent, against his critics in the media who have not given him enough credit, and those in Congress who might now want to investigate.
Yeah, no surprise there, George. This is we knew that he wasn't going to take responsibility. In fact, he'd said it himself coming into the midterms that whatever the outcomes were, he was not to blame, despite having very much campaigned on his own name being on these ballots. He told voters they should vote as if his name is on the ballot. What we're looking for right now from this president, does he address what we saw on these returns last night, that this is a divided America, and they voted in this election based on him and their opinions of him? And will he tone it down, as he said leading into this election, and as we heard some of his own Republican colleagues say that he should and they should tone it down? We'll be watching for all those things. We know he's feeling victorious this morning.
No question about that. The White House feeling much better at the end of the night last night than they felt going into the day. The president has also talked to the new Democratic leader of the House, expected to be Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Called her last night, put out a tweet on that this morning as well.
Yeah, he said, in all fairness, this is a shocker, Nancy Pelosi deserves to be chosen Speaker of the House. You know, for a long time there was no love lost there, and we know that the White House is now bracing for the investigations to come that will come out of the Democratic-controlled Congress. They have said, Nancy Pelosi said, coming into these midterms, that the first order of business will be to go after President Trump's tax returns. Other Democrats have said that they want to open investigations again, that they want to subpoena people like Don Jr. and Steve Bannon and even Jared Kushner. We know that John Kelly has held meetings, getting staffers together to get ready, brace themselves for all the onslaught of investigations to come.
And one of the tweets we saw from the president this morning, though, was that he would now use his Senate majority to investigate leaks of classified information and possible activity by the Democrats.
Yeah, and what we'll be looking for going forward is whether they can actually work together on anything. They've got infrastructure, that's a possibility. They've got to deal with a spending bill. This government is on the verge of another shutdown, and it's potentially weeks away. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few days we see a gesture, an olive branch of perhaps a Nancy Pelosi visit back in the Oval Office, but we will find out.
You brought up the government spending bill at the end of the year. The president has promised many times that he would not sign that bill unless it included funding for the border wall. That was something that even the Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell, this morning was non-committal on.
And going back to this issue of the border, this is something President Trump campaigned on day in and day out leading up to this election. And remember, we covered this so many times, these troops, as many as 15,000 that he said he wanted to send down to the border. And his critics said that this was all being politicized in order to drum up his base ahead of this election. And now we're just hearing from the Pentagon today, George, that they're no longer calling this a military operation. They're calling this a support mission. A lot of people are going to be questioning what the motives were behind this.
John Carl in the East Room there with the White House. So it will be interesting to see if the president does keep up that rhetoric that we saw in the closing days of the campaign.
He closed out the campaign with a rhetoric as harsh as we've ever heard from him, but he also suggested that if he had one thing that he would change over his first 2 years in office, it would be, perhaps, he said, his tone. He could have had a softer tone. But, George, I expect that you will see a president looking like he had a big victory last night. Now, obviously, the Republicans lost the House of Representatives. That's a big blow to this White House. It's a big blow to Republicans. But this White House, this president was preparing for a night last night that would have been a lot worse. And they're also buoyed by significant victories in the Senate, including race after race where the president campaigned and campaigned hard. So you will see a president coming out here talking about a great night as far as he is concerned, a great night where his party also lost the House.
But the president's success in the Senate last night won't necessarily foreclose changes in the White House or the administration.
It doesn't necessarily, not at all. As a matter of fact, I expect we will see changes. The big question is not whether or not there will be changes, but when. I think you'll see changes in the West Wing. You also see changes in his cabinet. The president's made no secret of the fact that he is not happy with his attorney general. I think that one of the big guessing games now is when does Jeff Sessions leave the Department of Justice?
Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas, when does Jeff Sessions leave? Who does the president try to replace him with? Will that replacement try to do something about the Mueller investigation?
That's right, George. I mean, the expectation is that either Sessions will resign or be fired soon. But again, you just don't know. We think that the president may assess these returns last night and make a final decision on that. But you're right. A lot is pending. The Mueller investigation is ongoing. We expect that we could see more indictments in the coming weeks and that final report by the end of the year, perhaps.
Yeah, Mueller was quiet during that 60-day period before the election. In fact, he's been leak-proof for the last, ever since he took over that job. And he's pretty impervious, Pierre Thomas, to pressure coming from either the press or the Congress or the president.
George, he just doesn't care. Again, he's the only figure I can think of in my time in Washington who has had a job for more than a year and not spoken a single word publicly.
But and we really don't have any real idea, though, on when he might act on either more indictments or issuing this report on the president's actions.
Well, I think that we, just based on our sourcing and reporting, expect that more indictments will be coming. He has had a steady stream of them in the last 2 months, particularly since August, and we expect that he is, working toward ending this investigation.
Perhaps before the end of the year. The president now entering the East Room, along with his vice president, Mike Pence.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please. Thank you. It was a big day yesterday, an incredible day. And last night, the Republican Party defied history to expand our Senate majority while significantly beating expectations in the House for the midterm and midterm year. We did this in spite of a very dramatic fundraising disadvantage driven by Democrats' wealthy donors and special interests and very hostile media coverage, to put it mildly. The media coverage set a new record and a new standard. We also had a staggering number of House retirements, so it's a little tough. These are seats that could have been held pretty easily, and we had newcomers going in, and a lot of them worked very hard, but it's very difficult when you have that many retirements. We held a large number of campaign rallies with large numbers of people going to everyone. To the best of my knowledge, we didn't have a vacant or an empty seat. I'm sure you would have reported it if you spotted one, including 30 rallies in the last 60 days. And we saw the candidates that I supported achieve tremendous success last night. As an example of the 11 candidates we campaigned with during the last week, 9 won last night. This vigorous campaigning stopped the blue wave that they talked about. I don't know if there ever was such a thing, but could have been. If we didn't do the campaigning, probably there could have been. And the history really will see what a good job we did in the final couple of weeks in terms of getting some tremendous people over the finish line. They really are tremendous people, but many of them were not known, but they will be known. This election marks the largest Senate gains for a president's party in a first midterm election since at least President Kennedy's in 1962. There have been only 4 midterm elections since 1934 in which a president's party has gained even a single Senate seat. As of now, we picked up, it looks like 3. Could be 4, perhaps it could be 2, but we picked up a lot. And most likely the number will be 3. You people probably know that better than I do at this point because you've looked at the more recent numbers. 55 is the largest number of Republican senators in the last 100 years. In the last 80 years, a sitting president's party has only gained a cumulative total of 8 Senate seats, averaging 1 per decade. So if we picked up 2, 3, or 4, that's a big percentage of that number. So in the last 80 years, you think of that, only 8 seats. In President Obama's first midterm election, he lost 6 Senate seats, including in the deep blue state of Massachusetts. Republicans captured at least 4 Senate seats held by Democrat incumbents. And these are tremendously talented, hardworking people that did this. Indiana, North Dakota, Florida, Missouri. We also won 2 open Senate seats in Tennessee. I want to congratulate our great champion who did such a great job in Tennessee, Marcia. And in Utah. And Arizona is looking very good, really very good. She's done a terrific job. That was a tough race, and she's done a fantastic job. In each of these open seats, Democrats recruited very strong candidates with substantial fundraising and media support. We were getting bombarded with money on the other side. In the House, Republicans dramatically outperformed historical precedents and overcame a historic number of retirements, the most House Republican retirements in 88 years. 43 House Republicans retired. Now, I will say this, that in many cases they were chairmen of committees, and they left because they weren't chairman, because the Republicans have a rule for 6 years. And what that does is wonderful in one way. It lets people come through the system and become chairman. In another way, it drives people out, because when they're a chairman, they don't want to go and not be a chairman. You're the chairman of a committee, and you're a big deal, and all of a sudden, you're not doing that anymore. So they leave. We had a lot of them leave. It's, I guess you can flip a coin as to which system is better. The Democrats do the other. Some of their folks have been on those committees for a long time as chairman. In 2010, President Obama's first midterm, he lost 63 seats. By contrast, as of the most current count, looks like around 27 House seats or something, and we'll figure that out pretty soon. We also had a slew of historic wins in the governor's races. The governor's races were incredible, against very well-funded, talented, and skilled Democrat candidates and people that worked very, very hard, respectfully, for those candidates, like Oprah Winfrey, who I like. I don't know if she likes me anymore, but that's okay. She used to. But she worked very hard in Georgia, very, very hard. And if you look at them, with 4 governor's races crucial to 2020 and the presidential race, Florida, Iowa, Ohio, and Georgia, the big ones. Florida, Iowa, Ohio, and Georgia. Can't get much more important than that. They were incredible. They were actually incredible campaigns, too. Incredible. As of right now, Republicans will control the majority of governorships across the country, including 3 great women who worked very hard, governors of Alabama, South Dakota, and Iowa. They worked very, very hard. They're very talented. By expanding our Senate majority, the voters have also clearly rebuked the Senate Democrats for their handling of the Kavanaugh hearings. That was a factor, I think maybe a very big factor. The way that was handled, I think, was tremendous energy was given to the Republican Party by the way they treated then Judge Kavanaugh, now Justice Kavanaugh, and expressed their support for confirming more great pro-Constitution judges. Candidates who embraced our message of low taxes, low regulations, low crime, strong borders, and great judges excelled last night. They excelled. They really, I mean, we have a list of people that were fantastic. And I'm just going to point them out. Mike Bost, Rodney Davis, Andy Barr was fantastic. I went to Kentucky. For the most part, I didn't campaign for the House, but I did actually make a special trip for Andy Barr because he was in a very tough race in Kentucky, and he won. That was a very tough race. The polls were all showing that he was down, and down substantially, and he won. And that one I did do. Pete Stauber of Minnesota, great guy, he's new, and ran a fantastic race. On the other hand, you had some that decided to, let's stay away, let's stay away. They did very poorly. I'm not sure that I should be happy or sad, but I feel just fine about it. Carlos Cubella, Mike Kaufman, too bad, Mike. Mia Love. I saw Mia Love. She'd call me all the time to help her with a hostage situation, being held hostage in Venezuela. But Mia Love gave me no love, and she lost. Too bad. Sorry about that, Mia. And Barbara Comstock was another one. I mean, I think she could have won that race, but she didn't want to have any embrace. For that, I don't blame her. But she lost, substantially lost. Peter Roskam didn't want the embrace. Eric Paulson didn't want the embrace. And in New Jersey, I think he could have done well, but it didn't work out too good. Bob Eugen, I feel badly because I think that's something that could have been won. That's a race that could have been won. John Faso, those are some of the people that, decided for their own reason not to embrace whether it's me or what we stand for, but what we stand for meant a lot to most people. And we've had tremendous support, and tremendous support in the Republican Party, among the biggest support in the history of the party. I've actually heard at 93% it's a record, but I won't say that because who knows. But we've had tremendous support. America is booming like never before, doing fantastic. We have Larry Kudlow here, and he said the numbers are as good as he's ever seen numbers at any time for our country. But he's a young man, so he hasn't seen that many numbers. Where's Larry? You're a young man, right, Larry? And you haven't been doing this too long, but they're as good as you've ever seen. And we may have, if you have a question for Larry, we'll do that. But I want to send my warmest appreciation and regards to Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. We really worked very well together. We have been working very well together. We actually have a great relationship. People just don't understand that, which is fine. And also to perhaps, looks like, I would think, Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And I give her a lot of credit. She works very hard, and she's worked long and hard. I give her a great deal of credit for what she's done and what she's accomplished. Hopefully we can all work together next year to continue delivering for the American people, including on economic growth, infrastructure, trade, lowering the cost of prescription drugs. These are some of the things that the Democrats do want to work on, and I really believe we'll be able to do that. I think we're going to have a lot of reason to do it. And I will say, just as a matter of business, I was with some very successful people last night. We were watching the returns. So if the Republicans won, and let's say we held on by 2 or 1 or 3, it would have been very hard out of that many Republicans to ever even get support among Republicans, because there'll always be 1 or 2 or 3 people that, for good reason or for bad reason or for grandstanding, we have that too. You've seen that. You've seen that, plenty of grandstanding. But for certain reasons, that many people, you're always going to have a couple that won't do it. So that puts us in a very bad position. In other words, had we kept, and this is no, I'm saying this for a very basic reason, it's common sense. It puts us in a very tough position. We win by 1 or 2 or 3, and you'll have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 even come over and say, look, we're not going to go along with this. We want this, 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 and all of a sudden we wouldn't even be able to get it in many cases out of the Republicans' hands before we sent it on to the Senate. And now we have a much easier path because the Democrats will come to us with a plan for infrastructure, a plan for health care, a plan for whatever they are looking at, and we'll negotiate. And as you know, it's been very hard in the Senate because we need essentially 10 votes from Democrats, and we don't get those votes because the Democrats do really stick together well. I don't agree with them on a lot of policy, but I agree with them on sticking together. They stick together great. So now we go into the Senate. We don't have the 10 votes. And what happens? It doesn't get passed. Even if it gets out of the House, it doesn't get passed. So under the new concept of what we're doing, I say, come on, let me see what you have. They want to do things. You know, I keep hearing about investigations, fatigue. Like almost from the time I announced I was going to run, they've been giving us this investigation fatigue. It's been a long time. They got nothing, zero. You know why? Because there is nothing. But they can play that game, but we can play it better because we have a thing called the United States Senate, and a lot of very questionable things were done between leaks of classified information and many other elements that should not have taken place. And all you're going to do is end up in back and forth and back and forth, and 2 years is going to go up, and we won't have done a thing. I really think, and I really respected what Nancy said last night about bipartisanship and getting together and uniting. She used the word uniting, and she used the bipartisanship statement, which is so important because that's what we should be doing. So we can look at us, they can look at us, then we can look at them, and it'll go back and forth, and it'll probably be very good for me politically. I could see it being extremely good politically because I think I'm better at that game than they are, actually. But we'll find out. I mean, you know, we'll find out. Or we can work together. You can't do them simultaneously, by the way, just in case somebody says, oh, you can do them both. No, you can't. Because if they're doing that, we're not doing the other, just so you understand. So we won't be doing that. But now what happens is we send it to the Senate, and we'll get 100% Democrat support, and we'll get some Republican support. And if it's good, I really believe we have Republicans that will help with the approval process, and they will really help with the approval process. So it really could be a beautiful bipartisan type of situation. If we won by 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, that wouldn't happen. And the closer it is, the worse it is. This way, they'll come to me, we'll negotiate, maybe we'll make a deal, maybe we won't. That's possible. But we have a lot of things in common on infrastructure. We want to do something on health care. They want to do something on health care. There are a lot of great things that we can do together. And now we'll send it up, and we will really we'll get the Democrats, and we'll get the Republicans or some of the Republicans. And I'll make sure that we send something up that the Republicans can support, and they're going to want to make sure they send something up that the Democrats can support. So our great country is booming like never before, and we're thriving on every single level, both in terms of economic and military strength, in terms of development, in terms of GDP, we're doing unbelievably. I will tell you our trade deals are coming along fantastically. The USMCA and South Korea is finished. USMCA has gotten rave reviews. We're not going to lose companies anymore to other countries. They're not going to do that because they have a tremendous economic incentive. Meaning it's prohibitive for them to do that. So it's not going to be like NAFTA, which is one of the worst deals I've ever seen, although we've made some other pretty bad ones too. Now is the time for members of both parties to join together, put partisanship aside, and keep the American economic miracle going strong. It is a miracle. We're doing so well. And I've said it at a lot of rallies. Some of you have probably heard it so much you don't want to hear it again. But when people come to my office, presidents, prime ministers, they all congratulate me almost the first thing on what we've done economically. Because it is really amazing. And our steel industry is back. Our aluminum industry is starting to do really well. These are industries that were dead. Our miners are working again. We must all work together to protect our military. We have to do that. To support our law enforcement, secure our borders, and advance really great policy, including environmental policy. We want crystal clean water. We want beautiful, perfect air. Air and water has to be perfect. At the same time, we don't want to put ourselves at a disadvantage to other countries who are very competitive with us and who don't abide by the rules at all. We don't want to hurt our jobs. We don't want to hurt our factories. We don't want companies leaving. We want to be totally competitive, and we are. And right now we have just about the cleanest air, the cleanest water we've ever had, and it's always going to be that way. We insist on it. So environmental is very important to me. And with that, I'll take a few questions if you'd like. Whoa. I didn't know what happened. All right, go ahead, John. That was a lot of hand shooting up so quickly. There's a lot to talk about.
Mr. President, you talked at length just now about bipartisanship. The presumed Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, talked about it last night. I'm sure that's encouraging for the American people. But do you really believe, given what the relationship has been like between this White House and the Democratic Party, that that will happen?
I think there's a good chance yet. I think there's a very good chance.
If I could just finish,
it will happen.
Will you have to compromise on certain issues to the point where it could hurt you in 2020? And do you expect that when the Democrats take over the chairmanship of all these important committees, you're going to get hit with a blizzard of subpoenas on everything from the Russia investigation to your cell phone use to your tax returns?
Ready? Then you're going to, if that happens, then we're going to do the same thing, and government comes to a halt. And I would blame them because they now are going to be coming up with policy. They're the majority in the House. I expect that they will come up with some fantastic ideas that I can support on the environment, on so many different things, including prescription drug prices, which we've made a big dent in already, including some of the things that we're working on for the vets. We've gotten choice approved. We've got a lot of things approved, but they have some other elements that we want. There are many things we can get along on without a lot of trouble, that we agree very much with them and they agree with us. I would like to see bipartisanship. I'd like to see unity. And I think we have a very good chance of, and maybe not on everything, but I think we have a very good chance of seeing that. Go ahead.
One question on the lame duck, sir, and one on your cabinet. You toyed with the idea during the campaign of a shutdown before the midterms in order to secure border wall funding. Are you prepared to go on a shutdown strategy during the lame duck, since this might be your last best chance?
Not necessarily.
To secure that?
Look, I speak to Democrats all the time. They agree that a wall is necessary. A wall is necessary. And as you know, we're building the wall. We've started, but we should build it at one time, not in chunks.
But you want much more money, and you want much sooner.
No, we need the money to build the wall, the whole wall, not pieces of it all over. And we are doing it. Now we have the military. Now we have other elements of a wall that are pretty nasty, to be honest with you, but it's nevertheless, it's pretty hard to get through it. But no, I'd like to see the wall. Many of the people that we'll be dealing with, you know, in 2006, they approved the wall, essentially. It was a very strong border fence, but it was the same thing. And they all approved it. They all agreed. I have statements from every one of them. We have them saying, we need the wall. I mean, they sound like me. Mm-hmm. But we do need it because we have people coming, and I'm not just talking about the caravans. We have people coming through our border that you physically can't put that many people. It's a 2,000-mile stretch. You can't put that many people along that stretch to guard it. And even if you did, tremendous fighting would ensue. So we need the wall. Many Democrats know we need the wall. And we're just going to have to see what happens. I mean, I will be fighting for it. They have done everything in their power to make sure. I got the military, $700 billion and $716 billion. The wall is a tiny, tiny fraction of the cost of that. But their whole agenda has been to try not giving me anything for the wall. I really believe politically they're hurting themselves. I actually think politically that's a good thing for me, but I want to get the wall up because we need it.
So no shutdown scenario.
I don't know. I can't tell you that. No, I
lame
can't
duck.
commit to that, but it's possible.
And can you give us clarity, sir, on your thinking currently, now after the midterms, about your Attorney General and your Deputy Attorney General? Do they have long-term job security?
I'd rather answer that at a little bit different time. We're looking at a lot of different things, including cabinet. I'm very happy with most of my cabinet. We're looking at different people for different positions. You know, it's very common after the midterms. I didn't want to do anything before the midterms. But I will tell you that, for the most part, I'm extremely happy with my cabinet. I think Mike Pompeo has fit in so beautifully. He's done an incredible job.
How about your Interior Secretary?
We're looking at that, and I do want to study whatever is being said.
Is he in jeopardy?
I think he's doing an excellent job. But we will take a look at that in a very strong, and we'll probably have an idea about that in about a week.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Wow, this is... Go ahead, John. He gave me a fair interview the other day, so I might as well ask him a question.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. And picking up there, you told me the other day that you are an open book. So
I think I am an open book.
So point blank, Democrats go after your tax returns. Will you try to block that, or will you allow them to have them?
Well, look, as I've told you, they're under audit. They have been for a long time. They're extremely complex. People wouldn't understand them. They're done by among the biggest and best law firms in the country. Same thing with the accounting firms. The accountants are a very, very large, powerful firm from the standpoint of respect. They're highly respected. Big firm. A great law firm, you know it very well. They do these things. They put them in. But people don't understand tax returns. Now, I did do a filing of over 100 pages, I believe, which is in the offices. And when people went and saw that filing and they saw the magnitude of it, they were very disappointed. And they saw the detail. You'd get far more from that. And I guess we filed that now 3 times. But you get far more from that than you could ever get from a tax return. But when you're under audit, and I'm on a very continuous audit because there are so many companies, and it is a very big company, far bigger than you would even understand. But it's a great company, but it's big, and it's complex, and it's probably feet high. It's a very complex instrument, and I think that people wouldn't understand it. But if I were finished with the audit, I would have an open mind to it. I would say that, but I don't want to do it during the audit. And really, no lawyer, even from the other side, they say often, not always, but when you're under audit, you don't subject it to that. You get it done, and then you release it. So when that happens, if that happens, I would certainly have an open mind to it.
So that means if the audit is still on, you will not turn over the tax returns, or you'll fight to block it?
When it's under audit, no, nobody would. Nobody turns over a return when it's under audit, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, please.
One, I was tempted to ask you why you like Oprah so much, but I think I'll go on to the question that...
Why do I like Oprah? What kind of a question is it?
Yeah, I'm just asking, just curious. But the real question...
He's a comedian here.
The real question is...
I do like Oprah, by the way. I do. She was a person I knew well, came to my place in Palm Beach often, and I have a lot of respect for her. Unfortunately, she didn't do the trick.
The real question is, you just sat up here and said that from this podium that are you offering an my way or highway scenario to the Democrats? You're saying that if they start investigating you, that you can play that game and investigate
better than them.
Can you compartmentalize that?
And I think I know more than they know.
Can you compartmentalize that and still continue to work with them for the benefit of the rest of the country, or are all bets off?
No. If they do that, then it's just all it is a warlike posture.
And so then, wait a minute, then the follow-up, I'm sorry, John.
You heard my answer. Go ahead.
Well, since it's Jim, I'll let it go.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants in this election to try to keep?
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign.
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
But your campaign had an ad showing migrants climbing over walls and so on.
Well, that's true.
But
they weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. Right. These were people. This was an actual, you know, it happened a few days ago. And
they're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President. If I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was
enough.
going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President.
That's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other
Peter,
question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have?
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter, go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his butt.
Well, I'm not a big
like the rest
fan of yours either, so
I understand.
To be honest.
So let me ask you a question if I can. You repeatedly said...
You aren't the best.
Mr. President, you repeatedly, over the course of the...
Okay, just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
Mr. President, over the course of the last several days of the campaign, sir, at the end of the campaign, you repeatedly said that Americans need to fear Democrats. You said Democrats would unleash a wave of violent crime that endangers families everywhere. Why are you pitting Americans? Why are you pitting Americans against one another, sir?
Peter, what are you trying to be him?
No,
Peter,
I'm just asking the question.
Let me just tell you, very simple, because they're very weak on crime. Because they have often suggested, members and people within the Democrat Party at a high level have suggested getting rid of ICE, getting rid of law enforcement. That's not going to happen, okay? We want to be strong on the borders. We want to be strong on law enforcement, and I want to cherish ICE because ICE does a fantastic job. So, what they do for us is it's so unrecognized how good a job they do. So we want to take care of them, and we want to hold them very close because they do a good job.
But the question, to be clear, though, the question,
Thank you very much.
Why are you
sit down? Peter.
But the question, but you didn't answer my question. Just very simply, the question is, why are you pitting Americans against one another, sir?
I'm not.
Is that how you view citizens of this country?
I'll tell you what. We won a lot of elections last night. We did very well last night.
But in many ways, I think it's going
to have a very positive impact. I watched NBC this morning. They didn't report it exactly correctly, but that's, that's the fact with NBC. Nothing I can do about that. But I want this country to have protection. We want security in our country. I want security, Peter. I mean, you maybe don't think it's so important. And I think when you don't have it, you are indeed unleashing crime. I feel that.
You said you would sign an executive order on birthright citizenship. Are you still going to sign the executive order on birthright citizenship?
You'll ask me that question a little bit later. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, sure.
Thank you, Mr. President. The investigation by the special counsel Robert Mueller has been going on since last spring. It's been over your head.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been over your head, over Republicans' head, during the midterms as well. Is this an opportunity for you, Mr. President, to end that investigation? Would you consider removing Mr. Mueller from his position?
I could have ended it any time I wanted. I didn't. And there was no collusion. There was no anything. I didn't. They went after hackers in Moscow. I don't know about that. They went after people with tax problems from years ago. They went after people with loans and other things. Had nothing to do with my campaign. This is a investigation where many, many millions of dollars has been spent, and there's no collusion. It was supposed to be on collusion. There's no collusion, and I think it's I think it's very bad for our country, I will tell you. I think it's a shame. And a poll came out today, by the way, from NBC, or at least I saw it on NBC, where a majority of the people do not agree with the Mueller investigation, or it wasn't approved. They have approval and disapproval, and it had a much higher disapproval. It should end, because it's very bad for our country.
So if it's bad,
and I'm not just talking about the tremendous expense. And the other thing is they should look at the other side also. They only look at one side. They're not looking at all of the things that came up during this investigation. They don't do that. They should also get people that can be fair, not 13 or 14 or 17. I call them the angry Democrats. They are angry people. And it's a very unfair thing for this country. It's a very, forget about unfair to me, it's very bad for our country.
Okay. So, Mr. President, if it's
Mr.
President, just wait just a moment. If it's unfair to the country and it's costing millions of dollars, why don't you just
give him the mic,
end it?
please? I've answered the question. Okay. Go ahead, take the mic. Well, I'll give you I will give you voter suppression. You just have to sit down, please. Sit down. I didn't call you. I didn't call you. I didn't call you. I'll give you voter suppression. Take a look at the CNN polls, how inaccurate they were. That's called voter suppression. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm not responding. I'm responding to. Excuse me. I'm not responding to you. I'm talking to this gentleman. Will you please sit down? Excuse me. Would you please sit down? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now that the House of Representatives
very hostile. It's such a hostile media. It's so sad. You asked me about. No, you rudely interrupted him. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do your demands remain the same to the United States Congress on immigration in exchange for a DACA fix, in exchange for an amnesty for 1.7 million? Are you willing to change any of those demands that you gave to Congress earlier?
I think we could really do something having to do with DACA. And what really happened with DACA, we could have done some pretty good work on DACA, but a judge ruled that DACA was okay. Had the judge not ruled that way, I think we would have made a deal. Once the judge ruled that way, the Democrats didn't want to talk anymore. So we'll see how it works out at the Supreme Court.
Do you still?
Go ahead. From where? From the international media. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. President.
Go ahead. Which group? Where do you want me to take a question from? Yeah. Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead. Take the. Oh, either one.
Okay.
Or both. Are you together? Go ahead.
We're not together. Mr. President, how do you respond to critics who say that your message on the campaign towards minorities have been polarizing?
I don't think it has been at all.
But is the election of two Muslim women, one of them is veiled to the House, which is making history. Is this a rebuke of this message, do you think?
I don't understand what you're saying. What?
But is it a rebuke of this message? Do you think that this is more reflective of multi-ethnic and multicultural America?
Well, that question, I can only say this. You look at the employment and unemployment numbers for African Americans, for Asian Americans, for Hispanic Americans, they're at a historic high. A poll came out recently where my numbers with Hispanics and with African Americans are the highest, the best they've ever been. That took place 2 or 3 days ago, the poll. I have the best numbers with African American and Hispanic American that I've ever had before. And you saw the same poll. So I can't say that. I can say this. You look at median income, you look at all of the employment and unemployment numbers, they're doing the best they've ever done. And it reflects, it really is very reflective in the polls. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. President, I'm from Brooklyn, so you'll understand me.
I understand you very well.
My question is on health care. How is it possible to keep premiums down and cover pre-existing conditions without the individual mandate to fund it?
Well, first of all, what we're doing, and if you look at the Department of Labor, also Secretary Azar, what they've done, they've come up with some incredible health care plans, which is causing great competition and driving the prices right down. But we are getting rid of the individual mandate because it was very unfair to a lot of people. But at the same time, we're covering the people that need it. But the individual mandate was a disaster because people that couldn't necessarily afford it were having to pay for the privilege of not having to pay for health care, and it was bad health care at that. So we are working many plans for healthcare. We're creating tremendous competition. We had Obamacare repealed and replaced. Unfortunately, one person changed his mind at the last moment, and we had no Democrat support. I have to say that. We didn't have one vote. We would have repealed it, replaced it. We would have had a large-scale, very good healthcare plan. Now we're doing it a different way. We're doing it a different way. But getting rid of the individual mandate is a very, very popular thing and a very important thing, and people very much appreciate it. Go ahead. No, that's enough. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, sir. Two questions. One, I know you went through the results, and you obviously studied them late last night. What lesson did you learn most from looking at those results? Was there one thing that, as you kind of reviewed them, that you'll change your strategy, not just for Congress, but kind of going forward? And then just a follow-up question.
Well, I think the results that I've learned and maybe confirmed, I think people like me. I think people like the job I'm doing, frankly. Because if you look at every place I went to do a rally, I couldn't do it with everybody. And it was very hard to do it with people in Congress because there's just too many, it would be too many stops. But I did it with the Senate. I did it with Andy Barr, as you know. And he won. He won a very tough race against McGrath. I was a very, very tough race in Kentucky. And he was down quite a bit. And I went there, and we had a tremendous, very successful, some of you were at that rally. And he won that race. But I could only do that so much because there are just so many players involved. But I did focus on the Senate, and we had tremendous success with the Senate. Really tremendous.
Can I ask you one more question? Sorry, Mr. President, one more question, if you don't mind. I'm so sorry, sir. It's a rare opportunity. A lot of people are going to be rushing to Iowa, rushing to New Hampshire. You know that the Democrats are already looking ahead to 2020. Do you want to lock down your ticket right now, sir? Will the vice president be your running mate in 2020?
Well, I haven't asked him, but I hope so. Where are you? Mike, will you be my running mate? Stand up, Mike, please. Raise your right hand. No, I'm only kidding. Will you? Thank you. Okay, good. The answer is yes. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
That was unexpected, but I feel very fine. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Going back to the Russia investigation and the potential investigations from the now Democratic majority in Congress, some say that you could stop all this by declassifying.
I could fire everybody right now, but I don't want to stop it because politically I don't like stopping it. Yeah. It's a disgrace. It should have never been started because there was no crime. Everybody has conflicts. They all have conflicts over there that are beyond anything that anybody's ever seen in terms of conflicts, from the fact that people ask for jobs, from the fact that they have very good friends on the other side, like really good friends like Comey, who, by the way, lied and leaked, and also leaked classified information. Nothing happened there. It might, perhaps, maybe something's happening that I don't know about. I stay away from it. But you know what I do? I let it just go on. They're wasting a lot of money, but I let it go on because I don't want to do that. But you're right. I could end it right now. I could say that investigation is over. But it's really, it's a disgrace, frankly. And it's an embarrassment to our country. It's an embarrassment to the people of our country. And it's too bad. Go ahead.
What about the declassification of the documents? Some say that that would clear it all up.
We're looking at that. No, we're looking at that very seriously. Declassification, we're looking at very seriously.
Okay, can I ask one more question?
It's amazing how people on the other side just don't want those documents declassified. But no, we're looking at that very carefully. I certainly wanted to wait till after the midterms.
Can I ask you one more question, Mr. President? Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. You have campaigned as a pro-life president. You have defended the rights of unborn children. You now have a divided Congress. It's unlikely to pass any pro-life bills.
Very tough issue.
How are you going to push forward your pro-life agenda?
Just going to push. I've been pushing. I've done a very good job, too. We're very happy with me. But it's a tough issue for the two sides. There's no question about it.
But what are you going to do?
There is great debate. What am I going to do? I won't be able to explain that to you because it is an issue that is a very divisive, polarizing issue. But there is a solution. I think I have that solution, and nobody else does. We're going to be working on that. Yes, go ahead, please. She took your place, but that's okay.
Mr. President, just a quick question on rural America. In states like Indiana, North Dakota, folks turned out for Republican candidates. Could you talk a little bit about what this means for your agenda in terms of trade and the Farm Bill?
The Farm Bill is working really well. I mean, we could have had it approved any time, but we're looking to get work rules approved. The farmers want it. I'd like it. The problem is the Democrats are not giving us the 10 votes that we need. Everybody wants it. The farmers want it, but the Democrats are not approving the Farm Bill with work rules. We could have it very fast without the work rules, but we want the work rules in, and the Democrats just don't want to vote for that. So at some point, they'll have to pay maybe a price. Jeff, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Have you seen any evidence that Russia or China intervened in yesterday's election?
Well, we're going to make a full report, and unlike the previous administration, we've done a lot of work on that issue. And if you look, speak with the FBI, speak with the Department of Justice, speak to Homeland Security. We've spent a lot of time. It gets very little coverage in the papers. I mean, you cover the nonsense part, but you don't cover the important. This is very important. And we have been working very hard on China and Russia and everybody else looking into our elections or meddling with our elections. But people tend not to write about it. But we have worked very hard, as you've probably heard.
What do you intend to say, sir, to President Xi and to President Putin when you meet with them later this month?
Well, I have a good relationship with both. I know President Xi better, but I think I have a very good relationship with both. I actually had a very good meeting in Russia that you people didn't agree with, but that's okay. It doesn't much matter, obviously, because here I am. But the fact is that I had a very, very good meeting, with President Putin, and a lot was discussed about security, about Syria, about Ukraine, about the fact that President Obama allowed a very large part of Ukraine to be taken, and right now you have submarines off that particular parcel that we're talking about.
That was President Putin who annexed Crimea, sir.
No, that was President Obama's regime. That was during President Obama, right? That was not during me.
But it was President
No, that was
Putin, sir, who did the
Obama.
annexation.
No, it was President Obama that allowed it to happen. Had nothing to do with me. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Cordelia Lynch, Sky News. You're a man who likes to win, but last night was not an absolute victory for you.
I'll be honest. I thought it was a very close to complete victory. When you look at it from the standpoint of negotiation, when you look at it from the standpoint of deal making, because it's all about deal making, again, if we had the majority and we had 1 or 2 or 3 votes to play with, we would have been at a standstill. I really believe that we have a chance to get along very well with the Democrats. And if that's the case, we can do a tremendous amount of legislation and get it approved by both parties. So I consider it to be, hey, look, I won Georgia. President Obama campaigned very hard in Georgia. Oprah Winfrey campaigned very, very hard all over the television. I said, this is going to be tough. I only had me. I didn't have anybody else. And I went to Georgia, and we had one of the largest crowds that anybody here has seen ever at a political rally. And you know what? He won. And he won actually by, pretty good margin. He won. And then we went to Florida, and they had celebrities all over the place. And a man who happens to be a very smart person was running, Ron DeSantis, and people didn't give him a chance. And I went, and we did some great work, and they're going to have a great governor of the state of Florida. And then we talked about the Senate, and a lot of money was pouring in for the Democrat. This is a man who's been in office for like 44 years or something. This is a man who's like a professional at getting elected and being at office. So he's not, Bill Nelson, not easy to beat, okay? But they had a lot of celebrity coming out for Nelson. They had everybody coming out for Nelson. And Rick Scott won, and I helped him. And I think we've done an amazing job. And you could look at many other places. You just take a look at some of the other places. And we just got the word that in Iowa, you have a governor who just got extended, Kim just got extended. and numerous other places. I think it was a great victory. I'll be honest. I think it was a great victory. And actually, some of the news this morning was that it was, in fact, a great victory. But if you look at it from the standpoint of gridlock, I really believe there's going to be much less gridlock because of the way this is going than any other way. Wait, sit down, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me ask you about one of the campaign promises you made down the stretch, which was a 10% tax cut for the middle class.
Yeah.
You just talked about gridlock. Democrats, they now run the House Ways and Means Committee. If it means a tax cut of some kind for the middle class, but that means raising rates elsewhere, corporations on the wealthiest, is that a trade-off that you would be willing to make and able to enact a middle class tax?
You know that this will have to be now proposed, because if we did it now, we don't have the votes in the Senate. You don't have. We would need 10 Democrat votes. We probably couldn't get them. If we could pass it very easily in the House. But there's no reason to waste time because you don't have the votes in the Senate. But if as an example, if the Democrats come up with an idea for tax cuts, which I'm a big believer in tax cuts, I would absolutely pursue something, even if it means some adjustment.
Some adjustment on which side, the corporate, the individual?
Yeah, to make it possible. But I would love to see a tax cut for the middle class. Now, that's going to be their decision. They're going to have to make that decision. As you know, if we bring it up to the Senate, we'd need Democrat votes 10, and we don't have those 10 votes.
And just because the markets would want to know, sir, some adjustment, would that be 1%, 2%, 3% on either side?
It's too early. I'm just saying I would be certainly willing to do a little bit of an adjustment. Go ahead, behind. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Two questions. One is, you had talked about leaders who had called to congratulate you. Did President Putin call to congratulate you? And will you, in fact, meet with him at lunch this coming weekend?
Well, as I understand it, we're having, and I guess a lot of you are going over, we're having a lunch for numerous countries. I'll be there. I believe President Putin is going to be there. We don't have anything scheduled. I don't think we have anything scheduled in Paris. And I'm coming back very quickly. I'm going over. This is a great event. This is an important, really, this is going to be a very important and I think a very beautiful ceremony. I'm looking forward to going, and we're representing the incredible heroes of the world, but the heroes of our country from World War I. And so I'll be going there, and I am very proud to go there.
Did he call you?
I don't think we have time set aside for that meeting. Now, with that being said, we're very shortly meeting again at the G20, where he'll be there and I'll be there, and that's where we're actually looking forward to meet. We will be having a lunch, but I think there are many people there.
And did he call you to congratulate you? And if I could also just invite you, since this is quite a gathering we've got here, to go ahead and talk about the staff changes that you expect in the White House while we're here. We're eger to hear about them. Is General Kelly going to stay on?
As we make changes, we'll sit down and talk to you about it. I mean, there's no great secret. A lot of administrations make changes after midterms. I will say that for the most part, I'm very, very happy with this cabinet. We're doing a great job.
But what about in the White House? What about in the White House, sir? You've got a lot of White House staff. Some have been talking about leaving. General Kelly has been rumored to be leaving.
No, people leave. People leave.
And is that going to happen?
People leave. I haven't heard about John Kelly, but no, people leave. They come in. They're here. It's a very exhausting job. Although I love doing it, I must tell you, but it's exhausting for a lot of people. I'm surprised at a lot of people. They start off, they're young people, they're there for 2 years, and they're old by the time they leave. It's quite exhausting, but I love doing it, and I'll tell you, there will be changes, nothing monumental from that standpoint. I don't think very much different than most administrations, and we have many people lined up for every single position. Any position, everybody wants to work in this White House. We are a hot country. This is a hot White House. We are a White House that people want to work with. Okay. No, please, behind you. Go ahead.
President, this has been a very challenging campaign. This has been a very challenging campaign.
It's been a very challenging campaign.
It has involved quite a lot of abuse and a lot of violence. People have died during the course of this campaign.
Right.
Is there any way in which you think the temperature could be lowered? Perhaps peace could break out with the media? Perhaps your bipartisan relationships across the House and the Senate may now produce some change? Or are we going to have more of the same?
It's a very fair question. Look, I would love to see unity and peace and love and any other word you want to use. And Obviously, I think we had to, especially at this particular juncture, we had to wait till after the midterms are over. Now they're over. If they would cover me fairly, which they don't, I'm not saying that in a hostile way. I get extremely inaccurate coverage. I can do something that's fantastic, and they'll make it look like not good. And I don't mind having bad stories. If I make a mistake, cover it. I'd like you to cover it fairly, but cover it. But when you do something terrific, look how little the economy is talked about. A poll came out this morning talking about how little the three networks, I don't think they included CNN, but how little the three networks talk about how good the economy is. How little. Almost not at all. If President Obama had this economy, and by the way, if that administration through somebody else kept going, you would have had negative 4.2 instead of positive 4.2% growth. You would have had negative. It was heading down. But here, the point is this, excuse me, I would love to see unity, including with the media. Because I think the media, I'll be honest, I think it's a very divisive thing for our country. And you would be amazed at how smart people are that are reading your stories and seeing your stories and watching. You'd be amazed how perceptive and how smart they are. They get it. And it really does bring disunity. I didn't, excuse me, you are not called on. Go ahead, please.
How about Turkey? Thank you, President Trump. Shortly after your victory speech on the historic night of back in November 2016, I asked you to what single factor you most attributed this victory to.
Sid, you have to speak up.
Sure. On the night of your victory, I asked you, right after your speech, to what you would attribute your victory. You pointed up to the ceiling and you said that it was God. Based off of that, how would you say over the last 2 years, God plays, what kind of a factor he plays in the day-to-day execution of the office of the president?
Well, God plays a big factor in my life, and God plays a factor in the lives of many people that I know very well in this room, like your vice president. God plays a very big role in my life.
And one more back to a quick follow-up. Which loss last night surprised you the most, and which of these unsuccessful candidates are you most likely to consider for a future administration?
Nothing surprises me in politics.
Would you
but there were
consider
some losses last night, and there were some victories last night that have been incredible. I mean, there were victories last night that nobody would believe, especially based on the suppression polls. They had a lot of suppression polls.
Would you
and there were some victories last night that were very surprising, but I'm not going to pick out special.
Well, would you consider
people.
any for
It's
a
tough
post?
enough for those people to have.
Would you
a loss.
consider any for an administration post moving forward as one of the very few of the 3.7% unemployed?
What?
Would you consider any of the people who lost last night for a post in the administration in the near future?
I know a couple of very good ones. Yeah, I would actually. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, I asked you on Monday if there was anything that you regret in your first 2 years. And you said that at times you could have and should have used a, quote, softer tone. Your critics, as you can imagine, your skeptics, they say they're not holding their breath on that happening. Will you indeed have to change your tone if you're to get things passed through Congress after losing the House? And you also said you might extend an olive branch. What would that look like?
I would love to have. I'd be very good at a low tone. But when things are done not correctly about you, written about you, said about you, on television, on wherever it is, you have to defend yourself. I would love to do very, very even tone, much easier than what I have to do. I have to go around, and going around is much easier than facing somebody and being treated fairly. But when you're not treated fairly, you really have no choice. I would love to have a very even, modest, boring tone. I would be very honored by that. But you know what? When you have to fight, all the time fight, because you're being misrepresented by the media, you really can't do that.
But not about the media, sir. But sir, real quickly, not about the media, but what about with Congress?
Please, go ahead.
Mr. President, can you tell how you focus on the economic...
Where are you from, please?
Japan.
Okay. Say hello. Say hello to Shinzo.
Yes.
I'm sure he's happy about tariffs on his cars. Go ahead.
That's my question, actually. So how you focus on the trade and economic issues with Japan? Will you ask Japan to do more, or will you change your tone?
I really don't understand you.
How will you focus on trade and economic issues?
Trade with Japan?
Yes.
Well, we're dealing with Japan right now on trade. Japan has, it's a great country. You have a great prime minister who just had a very successful election. He's a very good friend of mine. He's one of the people I'm closest with. But I tell him all the time that Japan does not treat the United States fairly on trade. They send in millions of cars at a very low tax. They don't take our cars. And if they do, they have a massive tax on the cars. Japan, and I'm not blaming Japan, I'm blaming the people that were in charge of the United States for allowing that to happen. But as you know, we have close to a $100 billion trade deficit with Japan, and Japan has treated us very unfairly. But don't feel lonely, because you weren't the only one.
How about North Korea? How about North Korea?
Thank you, Mr. President. Two international news questions. The first one, Secretary Pompeo's talks about North Korea have been postponed. What is happening there, and will your meeting still happen with...
We're going to change it because of trips that are being made. We're going to make it at another date. But we're very happy how it's going with North Korea. We think it's going fine. We're in no rush. We're in no hurry. The sanctions are on.
You still expect to meet Kim Jong-un?
Excuse me, wait.
Sorry, sir.
The sanctions are on. The missiles have stopped. The rockets have stopped. The hostages are home. The great heroes have been coming home. Mike Pence was in Hawaii, where one of the most beautiful ceremonies that anyone's ever seen for the fallen. These are great heroes, very important. When I was running, a lot of people, as many years ago as it was, in many cases grandchildren, but they were asking about that. They're coming home, and they're being provided to us as we speak. But I'm in no rush. I'm in no rush. The sanctions are on. I read a couple of times, and I've seen a few times where they said, he's done so much. What have I done? I met. Now, I'd love to take the sanctions off, but they have to be responsive, too. It's a two-way street. But we're not in any rush at all. There's no rush whatsoever. You know, before I got here, they were dealing with this for over 70 years. And I guess on a nuclear front for 25 years. That's a long time. I've been there. I probably left Singapore 4 or 5 months ago. And we made more progress in that 4 or 5 months than they've made in 70 years. And nobody else could have done what I've done. But I'll say this very simply. We're in no rush. The sanctions are on, and whenever it is. But that meeting is going to be rescheduled.
That meeting, but how about your meeting with Kim Jong-un, sir? Will it happen in the next month?
Sometime next year, I would say.
Sometime next year?
Sometime early next year.
And a quick question on the USMCA. Now that it's been concluded, have you repaired your relationship with Prime Minister Trudeau?
Yes, I have. We have a very good relationship.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We've been talking a lot about division and the division that exists in this country right now. And some of the statistics are disturbing, I think, to just about everyone. Anti-Semitic incidents have increased by 57% since 2016. Hate crimes are on the rise. Why do you think that is, and what will you do about it?
It's very sad to see it. I hate to see it. And as you know, I've done more. In fact, if you were with us the last time we met, Prime Minister Netanyahu said that this president has done more for Israel than any other president. Those words, those exact words. Jerusalem, protection, working together, so many different things. But the big thing is Jerusalem. You know, many presidents have said they are going to build the embassy in Jerusalem. Never happened. Making it the capital of Israel. Never happened. Never happened. But it happened with me, and quickly. And not only did it happen, we built the embassy. That would have taken another 15 or 20 years and cost probably billions of dollars. And we did it for a tiny amount of money. It's already done. It's open. Nobody has done more for Israel than Donald Trump. And the nice part is that's not me saying it. That's Prime Minister Netanyahu.
But what about Mr. President, what about the divides in this country? Mr. President, what about healing the divides in this country
Well,
and
we want to see
those
we want to
issues
see it healed. And
specifically?
one of the things I think that can help heal is the success of our country. We are really successful now. We've gone up $11.7 trillion in worth. If you know, China's come down tremendously. China would have superseded us in 2 years as an economic power Now they're not even close. China got rid of their China 25 because I found it very insulting. I said that to them. I said China 25 is very insulting because China 25 means in 2025 they're going to take over economically the world. I said that's not happening. And we've gone way up. They've gone down. And I don't want them to go down. We'll have a good meeting and we're going to see what we can do. But I have to say this. Billions of dollars will soon be pouring into our treasury from taxes that China is paying for us. And if you speak to Mr. Pillsbury, who probably is the leading authority on China, he was on the other day saying he has never seen anything like it. And you know who else hasn't? China hasn't.
And Mr. President,
but we're going to try and make a deal with China because I want to have great relationships with President Xi, as I do, and also with China.
you're talking about the
Okay.
economic. How do you see your role as a moral leader?
Go ahead,
Mr.
please.
President, just
Go
how
ahead.
do you see your
Please,
role as a
please.
moral
Go
leader?
ahead. There's so many people, I'm sorry.
As a moral
Go
leader,
ahead.
though.
I think I am a great moral leader, and I love our country. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, sir. You said earlier in this press conference that Democrats had a choice that you would not work with them on legislation if they were investigating you. Do you not have a choice in the matter as well? Don't you have a
I think it's
responsibility?
inappropriate. No. I think it's very inappropriate. We should get along and get deals done. Now, we can investigate. They look at us, we look at them. It goes on for 2 years. Then at the end of 2 years, nothing's done. Now, what's bad for them is being in the majority, I'm just going to blame them. You understand? I'm going to blame them. They're the majority. Honestly, it makes it much simpler for me. They will be blamed. But I think Nancy Pelosi, and you know, I put that statement out on social media today about Nancy Pelosi, that if she's short of votes, because frankly, I think she deserves, and a lot of people thought I was being sarcastic or I was kidding. I wasn't. I think she deserves it. She's been fighting long for it. She's been fighting. I really mean this. There was nothing sarcastic about it, or it was really meant with very good intentions. I think she deserves it. She's fought long and hard. She's a very capable person. And, you know, you have other people shooting at her, trying to take over the speakership. And I said, if it's appropriate, I said, if we can and if we will, if she has a problem, I think I would be able to very easily supply her the necessary votes. That's not said in any way other than I really believe she deserves that position. I also believe that Nancy Pelosi and I can work together and get a lot of things done, along with Mitch and everybody else that we have to work with. I think we'll get a lot done.
Mr. President, why can't
Mr.
President, why can't you do that while subpoenas are coming through?
Excuse me?
Why can't you work together while there are subpoenas or while there are investigations in process?
I think we will. Look, now that the election's over, the election's over. Now everybody is in love. But then I see the hostility of questions in the room. I come in here as a nice person wanting to answer questions, and I have people jumping out of their seats screaming questions at me. No, the election's over, and I am extraordinarily happy. I really am. And by the way, I tell you, if I wasn't, look at what happened in Florida. Look at what happened in Georgia. Look at what happened in so many locations with governorships. Nobody talks about the governorships. Look at the amount of work that was given to these other candidates against my candidate. And, I mean, I'm extraordinarily happy. And if I wasn't, I'd let you know. There's nothing wrong. I mean, look, you look at midterms and you look at elections generally, you see it's very rare that a party who has the presidency does well. We did unbelievably well to win Florida, both the Senate and the governorship, against two very talented people. I'll tell you what, we did incredibly. To win Georgia when you had some of the biggest stars in the world campaigning endlessly, including President Obama, I tell you what, this was a great victory for us. And again, from a deal-making standpoint, we are all much better off the way it turned out. Because I really believe if the Democrats want to, we can do a tremendous amount of great legislation. Yes, please, go ahead. Should we keep this going for a little while?
Yes. Yes, I think you should keep this
You know
going.
what? When you get bored, would you please tell me? Seriously. Tell me. You're never bored. I don't want to, hopefully not. I don't want to overstay, but yes, please go ahead.
Hi, Mr. President. Yami Shelsunder with PBS NewsHour. On the campaign trail, you called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also
I don't know
saying
why you'd
that
say
the
that.
president.
That's such a racist
There are
question.
some people that say that now the Republican Party is seen as supporting white nationalists
Oh, I
because
don't
of your
believe
rhetoric.
that. I don't
What do you
believe
make of that?
I don't believe it. Well, I don't know. Why do I have my highest poll numbers ever with African Americans? Why do I have among the highest poll numbers with African Americans? I mean, why do I have my highest poll numbers? That's such a racist question. Honestly, I mean, I know you have it written down and you're going to tell me. Let me tell you, it's a racist question.
And Mr. President, I want to ask.
You know what the word is? I love our country. I do. You have nationalists, you have globalists. I also love the world. And I don't mind helping the world, but we have to straighten out our country first. We have a lot of problems.
And
Excuse me, but to say that, what you said is so insulting to me. It's a very terrible thing that you said.
And
Okay,
Mr.
please,
President,
go ahead.
Mr.
Go
President,
ahead.
people have you
Go
talked
ahead.
about you talked about middle class tax cuts on the campaign trail. How will you get Democrats to support that policy? Or
You have to
support
ask
that?
them.
Well,
Hey,
what's your plan for working with
You know
Democrats
what
on a
my
middle
plan
class
is?
tax plan?
You know what my plan is? I'll ask them. And if they say yes, I'm all for it. And if they say no, there's nothing you can do because you need their votes. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Francesca Chambers, DailyMail.com. You said many times on the campaign trail that you didn't want Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker. At least you suggested that. You spent a lot of time talking about her and Chuck
Not a
Schumer.
question of want. I would have. So here's. Let me answer. Would I have preferred winning by 2 or 3 or 4? I would almost have to think about that. But certainly, I like to win. And if I win, she's not going to be Speaker.
What did she say to you, though, yesterday that
We had a
made you
great
give her
conversation.
support?
Honestly, we had a very warm conversation. You know, she loves this country. And she's a very smart woman. She's done a very good job. She was really, I mean, she's had a very...
Did she promise
she's had
that
a
they
very-
wouldn't seek to impeach
She's
you?
had a very, very, we didn't talk about impeaching. We didn't talk, what do? Do you impeach somebody because he created the greatest economic success in the history of our country? Let's impeach him because the country is so successful. Let's impeach him. Has he done anything wrong? They asked somebody, has he done anything wrong? No, but let's impeach him anyway. And they also said, let's impeach Justice Kavanaugh. Let's impeach him. And now they have the second woman coming out, that the first, the second. And I hate to say this, but it was public. And after him, we're going to impeach the vice president. We're going to impeach Mike Pence. Mike Pence doesn't get impeached for anything. So let's impeach the president, and then we'll impeach the vice president. These people are sick. And you know what? They have to get their bearing. Really, they have to get their bearing. And when you ask about division, they're the ones that cause the division. They cause tremendous division.
Okay,
Yeah,
regarding
go ahead,
all of the
please.
retirements in the House, Mr. President, very quickly, you suggested
Who
that
is retiring?
you said that many of the retirements that happened in the House made it very difficult.
Many retirements, yeah.
That made it very difficult for you in this election cycle, and that it was because they were chairmanships that were vacated. But Jeff Flake wasn't a chairman of a committee, and Paul Ryan also retired the cycle. So why do you think that is? Whose fault is it that there
In
were so many
Jeff Flake's
retirements?
case, it's me, pure and simple. I retired him. I'm very proud of it. I did the country a great service. Go ahead, give him that. Give him that. He is retired. I'd like to call it another word, but we're going to treat him with great respect. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Jeff Flake, that's another beauty. Go ahead.
2 questions, please.
No, one. Too many people.
All right.
Sorry.
All right. You seem to enjoy this venue very much. Are you going to make the standard press conference a staple of the remaining
No.
2 years, or will you have more briefings with
No.
Sarah Sanders?
You know, when I don't do I think Sarah's fantastic. Where is Sarah? Where is Sarah? Sarah's so great. I think, Sarah, you've represented me so well and been abused. She's been horribly treated by a lot of
So
people.
she's going to stay on as press
But it's
secretary.
very interesting because Sarah we were talking about it the other day. So I had a period where I figured, you know what I'll do? I won't do any real interviews. And then they started saying, why isn't he doing why? You know, they're all coming up with all kinds. Then over the last couple of months, I decided I'll do a lot. We'll stop at the helicopter. We'll do this. We'll do a lot of. And then they say, why is he doing so many press conferences? What's wrong? What? So when I don't do them, you say, what's wrong? When I do them, you say, what's wrong? And when I go in the middle, you say, what's wrong? But in the middle, you know that, John. Right? Yeah, sort of right. Okay, good. No, you did. Excuse me. Well, you complained about access when I purposely just stayed away from the press for a while because I wanted to see how it worked. And can I be honest with you? It didn't work well.
Mr. President, I didn't
didn't
finish
work
the
well.
question, so Sarah will stay on as press secretary.
Okay, please, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Can I get the microphone? First off, I personally think it's very good to have you here because a free press and this
I
type
do
of
too.
engagement.
Actually, I do too.
Yes, it's vital to
It's called
democracy.
earned media. It's worth billions. Go ahead.
So I have two questions for you, if that's all right. It's a rare opportunity. First, just a point of clarification on the tax returns issue. You brought up the audit. That doesn't prevent you from releasing them.
I know it. Oh, sure.
Right,
But
but it-
I didn't say it prevented me. I said lawyers will tell you not to do it.
But
Go
if
ahead.
the
What's
Demo-
your next question? Go ahead. Come on, let's go.
Just on that.
More exciting
okay.
question than that, please.
Second one. Michael Cohen recently said you called black voters stupid.
That's false.
Omarosa has accused you of using the N-word, and the rapper Little John has said you called him Uncle Tom. What's your response?
I don't know who Little John is. I really
He was on
don't.
The Apprentice.
I don't know. Oh, he was? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Have you ever
I
made
don't know.
racist remarks?
No, I would never do that, and I don't use racist remarks. And you know what? If I did, you would have known about it. I've been hearing there are tapes for years and years. There are tapes. Number one, I never worried about it because I never did. I never used racist remarks. I've never used racist remarks. Okay.
Well, one point of fact.
Go ahead.
One point of fact, because you told her you have
Quiet,
the highest
quiet,
approval among
quiet,
African
quiet. Go
Americans.
ahead.
It's just 8%, sir, single digits.
See, when you talk about division, it's people like this that cause division. Great division. No, point of fact is that I never used a racist remark. That's the point of fact. Who are you from?
I'm from Yahoo News. We know
Yahoo? No, good. Good. I hope they're doing well.
MTV Lebanon, Ellen Dorgam. So first question.
Where are you from?
MTV Lebanon. Lebanon.
Oh, Lebanon. Good.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. We're so happy to be here as well, have this opportunity. President Erdogan said he's not going to follow your sanctions and he's going to keep buying oil from...
Who said that?
President Erdogan, Turkey.
I know.
And you're going to meet him soon.
Just can't understand his...
Okay, you're going to meet him soon. You're going to have this talk. And some countries are going to take the same steps that President Erdogan is doing.
So let me just tell you about the oil, okay? So we imposed, just recently, the strongest sanctions in the history of our country, just about. Well, I guess North Korea is there too. But I gave some countries a break on the oil. I did it a little bit because they really asked for some help. But I really did it because I don't want to drive oil prices up to $100 a barrel or $150 a barrel, because I'm driving them down. If you look at oil prices, they've come down very substantially over the last couple of months. That's because of me, because you have a monopoly called OPEC. And I don't like, and I don't like that monopoly. I don't like it. And oil prices are coming down. So rather than deciding to be as tough as I am on most of the sanctions, what I've done is I said, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to let some of the oil go out to these countries that really do need it, because I don't want to drive the oil prices up to $100 or $150 a barrel, which could happen very easily. It's a very fragile market, very, very fragile. I know it very well. And it's the absolute right decision. And they'll get tougher as time goes by, maybe. But I don't want to have any effect on the oil prices worldwide where I drive them up, because I consider that to be a tax, and I don't like taxes.
We have a peace process between Israel and Palestine.
Please.
The peace process is over.
Who? Oh, congratulations to John Tester. Congratulations. I'm sure you're very unhappy about that. Go ahead.
Mr.
Yes,
President,
please, go ahead.
Can you address the...
We'll take a couple of more and then we'll go.
Can you address concerns in places like Georgia where people waited in line to vote for hours, where voting machines weren't working in certain districts, and
You think
there
that's the
wasn't power?
reason that the candidate lost?
Well, there are concerns being raised that it wasn't
I wasn't
equal
involved
access
in
to-
Georgia.
I know, but
other than
as
other than I
president-
love the state. I
Yes,
do
but
love
as
the
president of the United States, are you concerned about the access that people are having to voting?
I heard it was very efficient in Georgia. I heard it was very efficient. But again, you'd have to ask the state governments, because just one of those things you're going to have to ask them. Yeah, go ahead, please. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. You expressed some concerns about social media companies unfairly censoring conservatives during the election. Do you anticipate working with Democrats to regulate these companies, or are you satisfied with the way things are?
Yeah, I would look at that very seriously. I think it's a serious problem. At the same time, you start getting into speech. It's a very dangerous problem. That could be the beginning. So it's very dangerous. Believe it or not, I'm one that really likes free speech. A lot of people don't understand that. But I am a big believer. When you start regulating, a lot of bad things can happen. But I would certainly talk to the Democrats if they want to do that. And I think they do want to do that. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Former President Barack Obama famously said that he had a pen and a phone to use executive power on issues like immigration. Do you see yourself using executive power to get some of your immigration agenda done?
I do. I think that some of it I can use executive power on some, not all. But I mean, he certainly used it. He used it on DACA. And when he did it, he said something to the effect that, I'm not allowed to do this, it'll never hold up, but I'm doing it anyway. And he did it, and they found judges that approved it. We also found judges that didn't approve it, so it's obviously going to be determined in the Supreme Court. And if the court rules in favor of what President Obama thinks they should rule, which is what he said, then I will probably have a deal with the Democrats in a very short period of time. We were very close to having a deal until we got that very strange ruling.
You also made some promises about immigration during the campaign, and I want to know if you're going to follow through with them. Are you going to
Which one are you talking about?
Birthright citizenship. Are you going to sign an executive order to ban?
We are looking at it very seriously, absolutely.
I mean, is yes or no? Or
And I believe we have the absolute right, but that's another case that will be determined by the Supreme Court of the United States.
Are you going to send 15,000 troops to the border?
You've been reading the same documents as I have. You know exactly what I'm doing. You know exactly what I'm doing. So go ahead. What's your next question?
Also, on the Khashoggi matter, we've been more than a month since the death of Mr. Khashoggi, the journalist.
Very sad thing, very terrible thing.
Do you think Saudi Arabia is guilty of having him murdered? And if so, what kind of punishment would be
I'll have a much stronger
involved?
opinion on that subject over the next week, and I'm working very closely with Congress. We're working together, some very talented people, and we're working with Congress, we're working with Turkey, and we're working with Saudi Arabia, and I'm forming a very strong opinion. Go ahead, John. Go ahead, John.
Mr. President, just a quick follow-up. You said something about Nancy Pelosi. You said that Nancy Pelosi, she loves our country. Do you regret some of the things you said during the campaign? I mean, various times you said Democrats want to put a wrecking ball to our future or destroy our country.
I believe that. With their current policy, they're using a wrecking ball on our country. I believe that 100%. This would be a wrecking ball. But I think there's a compromise somewhere, and I think that could be really good for our country. Okay, how about one more?
Do you regret the ad? Do you regret the ad that you did that was branded as a racist ad, and even Fox News wouldn't air it, NBC wouldn't air it?
Do I regret it?
Networks? Yeah.
I'm surprised you asked me that question. I do not. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, sir. And I think we'd all love to have more of these if you're willing. In 2017, shortly after you took office, your Homeland Security Department shuttered a program to counter homegrown right-wing extremism, white supremacism, and related terrorist groups, domestic terrorist groups, and redirected that funding towards fighting Islamic terrorism. Do you believe that white supremacist terrorists, right-wing terrorists, these homegrown terrorists on that side of the spectrum are a problem, sir? And what is your administration going to do about it?
I do believe that's a problem. I believe all hate is a problem, but I do believe that is a problem.
What are you going
and
to
it's
do
a
about
problem we want to solve.
How,
okay.
sir? What are you
go
going
ahead.
to do about it, sir? What are you going to do about it?
Go ahead.
You cut off the funding.
Mr. President, you've said...
No, we have given funding for that, a lot of funding, but I do believe it's a problem. And can I tell you what? It's a problem that I don't like even a little bit. Go ahead.
Aixa Diaz with Hearst Television. You've said, pretend I'm on the ballot yesterday. You called it a referendum on your presidency. Many local districts across the country rejected your midterm message, particularly suburban women. How do you bridge that divide now? Also with the influx of women coming into Congress.
I think my message was very well received. I mean, just look at the results. Midterm elections are disasters for sitting presidents and administrations. This has been a very successful And look, you can write it any way you want, and if you disagree with me, this has been an incredibly successful one. You look at the races. How about Ohio? I didn't even mention. I mentioned Florida. I mentioned Georgia. How about the governor of Ohio?
What's your message to suburban women voters?
Excuse me. A fantastic man who was down in the polls, and everybody was talking about this person that was so great. And I went up there, and I did a rally. And they have now a great governor. You're going to have a great governor in Ohio for hopefully a long period of time, but for 4 years. And Mike DeWine is a fantastic person. And I went up there for 2 reasons, because I felt that his opposition was not a good person, and we know a lot about him. And I felt that Mike was a fantastic person. And he won. And not only did he win, he won easily. So add that to Florida, and add that to Georgia, and add that to all of the other races that we won, outside even of the Senate races, which were the biggest of all. Because these were races that, and Mike Pence can tell you, and some of the folks over here can tell you, these were races that were going to be unopposed. We were not going to oppose certain of the people running, certain senators. They said they couldn't be beaten. They said Heidi could not be beaten. Please don't do it. They couldn't. This was a year out.
What about in the suburban districts? How do you get those back?
You're telling me about popularity. They said many of these people, when I said 9 out of 11, but I said when many of these people, these weren't like easy races, these were tough races. And so I think the level of popularity, the first question I was asked was about, well, what have you learned? What about your own popularity? I think that's what I learned. I was very well received by this great country, by the people of our great country. And I'm very proud of that, because I love the people of this country. These people, we are the greatest people. I love the people of our country.
What do you say to women, Mr.
And I'll tell you something. When you look at the races that we won in Florida, which we weren't expected to win, and Georgia, which we weren't expected to win, and Ohio, which we weren't expected to win, and one, I mean, you look at some of them, the number of votes that we got is incredible. So I'm really happy with not only the way it came out, but the response to me as your president. And as your president, I've made our country safe. I've rebuilt, and I'm in the process of rebuilding our military, and the jobs are here, every one of them built here. We're going to have the strongest, very shortly, we're going to have the strongest military our country has ever had. I've done more for the vets than any president has done, certainly in many, many decades, with choice and with other things, as you know, with other things. But our vets are doing better than they've ever done. But if you look at choice alone, I mean, just take a look at what we've done with choice. But the people of our country are very happy with the job that I'm doing. And you know, one of the things that they want so much is security. They want security, both at the border. They want it with our military. They want it with law enforcement. They want it with ICE. You know, we've taken out thousands of MS-13 gang members, thousands out of, it's hard to believe, thousands out of our country. Women of our country who are incredible people, they want security, they want safety, they want financial security also. We've done that. But they want physical security. And we've taken out thousands of people that shouldn't be in this country. But we have to get strong immigration laws so they don't come in. We want laws where they don't come in, where we don't have to take them out per se. And again, I'm very honored to be with all of you. It was a great day yesterday. It was a great evening. I think we had a tremendous success, and hopefully the tone can get better.
How will you change that?
Hopefully the tone can get a lot better. And I really believe it begins with the media. We used to call it the press.
Does it begin with you, Mr. President?
I really believe it begins with the media. If you would cover, and there was a very interesting story written in a very good paper recently that talked about the fact that it isn't good what the media is doing, and that I do have the right to fight back because I'm treated very unfairly. So I do fight back, and I'm fighting back not for me. I'm fighting back for the people of this country. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Love him or hate him, President Trump always does things his own way. And the president's supporters will find much to love in that 90-minute press conference. His critics will find much they don't like over the course of that 90 minutes. The president ending with an admonition to the press saying that they are the cause for the division. The responsibility for changing the tone, for healing the divisions in the country begins with the press. The president started out taking credit for the victories he helped Republicans win in the Senate yesterday, did not accept responsibility for the losses in the House. In fact, went out to call out losing House Republican candidates by name. Never seen anything like that before in a press conference coming out of the election, for running away from the president. Also threw out something of an olive branch to the new Democratic leaders, Speaker of the House designate Nancy Pelosi, if indeed she is elected, saying he hopes he can work with her, but also saying that all bets are off, Cecilia Vega, senior White House correspondent, if the Democrats in the House investigate the president.
Yeah, he's basically setting himself up for playing a game of chicken. He said that if the Democrats investigate him, he will investigate them right back. The takeaway from this, there were many, but if I could begin with this one, this is a man who does not like to lose. And he is trying to spin this as a win, but he is clearly very angry. And we saw that in the exchanges that were frankly jaw-dropping with a number of reporters in that room, with CNN's Jim Acosta telling him, you should run this country, telling a Japanese reporter, I don't understand you, say hello to Shinzo, telling an African-American reporter that her question about white nationalism was racist. You said it, love him or hate him, people are going to continue to see this presidency through a different lens, through their own lenses. What we're not seeing is President Trump trying to heal these divisions that are in this country right now.
John Carl, you're in the room there. It seemed tense.
It was incredibly intense. It was uncomfortable. That is not what you want to see as a journalist in a White House press conference, to see, essentially at one point we actually had a White House staffer wrestling for the microphone as one reporter tried to ask a third or fourth question, and the president was firing back. A very tense press conference. And in all, George, I think the message that he was trying to come out here with was that he can find a way to work with Democrats as long as they don't start investigating him.
John, I have to interrupt you because Nancy Pelosi has now come to the podium. We're going to listen in on her press conference.
Great day for the American people. The biggest winner yesterday was the health care for American people, for our seniors and hardworking American families. Health care was on the ballot, and health care won. Yesterday, Americans elected an extraordinary class of dynamic and diverse Democratic candidates. Members elected who reflect their districts and who embody the bountiful diversity of our nation. Women led the way to victory, with at least 30 new women coming to the Congress. Is that not exciting? And there's still some races that are not finalized yet, so there could be more. Democrats also secured big wins in the governorships across the country. And while it is my responsibility to win the House for the Democrats, winning the governorships is essential to good policy in our country and open elections and the rest. So victories in Wisconsin, Illinois, Kansas, Maine, Michigan, New Mexico, and Nevada. We're very proud in New Mexico that our colleague, Michelle Lujan Grisham, is now the governor. In Colorado, Jared Polis is now the governor, our current colleague, even though that's replacing a Democratic governor, a great governor, Governor Hickenlooper. So that wasn't a pickup, but it is a Democratic member there. Tim Walz in Minnesota, our colleague, again, winning in Minnesota. So for us, just seeing that the extraordinary leadership of these members going into governor's offices, seeing the increased number of Democratic governorships, it was a great night for the American people. We won because from the beginning, we focused on health care. 2 years ago today, the day after the election, not the same date, but the same day after the election, everyone came together and said, we see the urgency, we want to take responsibility, and that gave us opportunity to protect the Affordable Care Act. That was so essential to the health and financial security of America's working families, and we knew it would be a target of the Trump administration. So just for you know, that by that Sunday, we had mobilized many of the groups outside. They were self-mobilized as well. But we all came together, depending on where, despite where we might be on the spectrum on other issues, to say this was our focus. We made a plan to launch our campaign on the weekend of Martin Luther King Day, you know when that is, in January, and we did. After the president's inauguration, as you know, something historic happened in our country, the Women's March. And much of that was about health care, women's reproductive health, excuse me, health care. The beat goes on. Over the course of that next year and a half, working with the outside groups, and they deserve a great deal of credit, and I'm proud of our democratic unity in the Congress of the United States and our inside maneuvering. That unity was essential to the clarity of our message and our differentiation from the Republicans on that subject. But working together, voting together, we were able to make our case. The outside groups, and we participated in some of this, but the outside groups had 10,000 events across the country speaking out about the risks that was involved in Republican policy in terms of health care in our country. There are assaults on Medicare and Medicaid. There are assaults on the benefit of a pre-existing medical condition being taken away, all of that, so much more. The issue about the cost of prescription drugs, all of those issues by groups, coalitions, HCAN, Protect Our Care, little lobbyists, advocacy groups of patient advocacy groups across the country, labor unions, veterans, the list goes on and on of so many people who were involved in that. Leading up to this being on the ballot, and when people, some of you have said to me, how did this emerge as the issue in the campaign? My answer is, we made our own environment because we knew how important healthcare is, not only to the good health of families, but to the financial well-being of their families. Healthcare cost being such a major assault on their economic security. It was, and when we put together our For the People agenda, our first priority was to lower healthcare cost by lowering the cost of prescription drugs. Leader Mitch McConnell went forth and really admitted that Medicare and Medicaid and some aspects of Social Security disability benefits were on the chopping block. The president pulled his punch when it came time to lowering the cost of prescription drugs by enabling the secretary to negotiate for that. So this is very important. That was For the People, lower health care costs, bigger paychecks by building the infrastructure of America, integrity in government by reducing the role of big dark money in the political spectrum. That was our agenda. Our candidates ran with it. But healthcare, healthcare, healthcare in every household in America is an important issue. The man whose office I occupy now, Speaker Tip O'Neill, he said all politics is local. When it comes to healthcare, all politics is personal. And so, again, we made our own environment. While the GOP tried relentlessly to distract and divide, our candidates kept their focus on that subject. And when I say our candidates for re-election as well. Voters delivered a resounding verdict against congressional Republicans' attacks on Medicare, Medicaid, and the Affordable Care Act and people with pre-existing conditions in districts everywhere in America. They went in a new direction, a House that will, now they want a new direction, a House that will work to make progress in the lives of America's families and seniors. Democrats pledge, again, a new majority, our For the People agenda, lower health care costs, lower prescription drugs, bigger paychecks, building the infrastructure, clean up corruption to make America work for the American people's interest, not the special interest. Yesterday's election was not only a vote to protect America's health care, it was a vote to restore the health of our democracy. the health of our democracy. Under the Constitution, I'm proud that the legislative branch is the Article 1, the first branch of government, the legislative branch. Right after that beautiful preamble stating our purpose, Article 1, the legislative branch, there as a co-equal branch of the other branches of government and a check and balance on other branches of government. The American people want to put an end to unchecked GOP control of Washington, restoring, again, the checks and balances envisioned by our founders. That's a responsibility we have when we take that oath to protect and defend the Constitution. And we as Democrats are here to strengthen the institution in which we serve and not to have it be a rubber stamp for President Trump. House Democrats will honor our responsibility to the Constitution, as I said, have a conscience, how we will do things. We will open the Congress with a rule that will insist upon openness and transparency so that the American people can see the impact of public policy on their lives, putting an end to what the Republicans did with their tax scam in the dark of night with the speed of light, no hearings on a bill that would have trillions of dollars of impact on our economy. That's over. We will strive in that openness with American people as our partners because they will see the impact of legislation on their lives. We will strive for bipartisanship. We believe that we have a responsibility to seek common ground where we can. Where we cannot, we must stand our ground, but we must try. And so openness and transparency, accountability, bipartisanship, a very important part of how we will go forward. We believe that's a responsibility we have to honor the vision of our founders. They gave us, in their declaration, a call for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How beautiful. But they also gave us guidance on how to achieve that. E pluribus unum, from many one. They couldn't imagine how many we would become or how different we would be from each other, but they knew that we had to strive for oneness, recognizing that this is a marketplace of ideas. We have different views on the role of government, and that's a healthy debate for the American people to witness and for us to have. We do so with confidence in our values and our proposals, but also with humility to listen and hear what others may have to say. And so that will be the kind of Congress that we have, one, again, that honors the guidance of E pluribus unum. Last night, I had a conversation with President Trump about how we could work together. One of the issues that came up was part of our For the People agenda, building the infrastructure of America, and I hope that we can achieve that. He talked about it during his campaign and really didn't come through with it in his first 2 years in office, but that issue has not been a partisan issue in the Congress of the United States. Over the years, we've been able to work together regionally, bipartisan, across the aisle, across the Capitol, and down Pennsylvania Avenue. Hope that we can do that because we want to create jobs from sea to shining sea, creating good-paying jobs, whether it's about surface transportation, water systems. My colleague, Congresswoman Eshy, was here at Champion on broadband, always on, high-speed broadband across America to end the digital divide, especially into rural areas as well as urban areas, and then schools, housing, and the rest. Those jobs, those initiatives will create good-paying jobs, will also generate other economic growth in their regions. So we hopefully we can work in a bipartisan way in that way. The other issue that we could hopefully work on is lowering the cost of prescription drugs, and that is something the President has talked about. We had it in our 6 for 06 12 years ago when we won the House. 5 of those 6 became law. The one we couldn't get 60 votes in the Senate for was enabling the Secretary to negotiate for lower prescription drug prices. We hope to get that done now because that is a big impact on America's family's budget. And then the third really caffeinating issue for us is integrity in government, to reduce the role of dark special interest money. And I commend all of our candidates for their commitment to the health care agenda, to the bigger paycheck agenda, and also to the good government agenda. They have written letters saying that they want H.R. 1, which is our better deal for America's democracy, to be something they vote on. But I say to them, when you come here, you will have an impact on what that legislation is. You may want to make some additions or some tweaking, but nonetheless, our newcomers will be part of putting together how the agenda goes forward, and we look forward to that invigoration of the Congress. I also spoke to Leader McConnell this morning, and how we could work together, especially on infrastructure. I did receive a call of congratulations from Speaker Ryan, and I welcomed that, and we discussed how it is to win and how it is not to win in terms of this. So in any event, the concern that he was expressing was about for some of his colleagues who would no longer be serving. On that point, I want to say something, because in winning this election, not only were we on the right side of history, we're on the right side of the future. This is where we have to go. But when we talk about the challenges that we face, we had to jump over gerrymandered lines all over the country. So when we talk about our success, it's about the grassroots operation, owning the ground. All of these groups that cared about health care, many of them out there to help elect people who shared their value about lowering health care costs, removing lifetime caps, even annual caps on insurance coverage, and certainly restoring the benefit of pre-existing conditions not being a barrier to coverage. Most importantly, though, are the quality of our candidates. They're spectacular from every walk of life, and some of them from a couple of different walks of life. And when they come here, they'll bring their experience, their knowledge, and especially their values to the Congress. We look forward to that. This is no easy feat to win this election. I hear the president attributing to this, that, and the other thing. But when you think of how gerrymandered the country is, how we hope to change that, but nonetheless, how we were able to succeed in this election is a tribute again to the quality of our candidates, the determination of our grassroots folks across the country, and the values that we share with the American people. In terms of working with the president, I just would say that I worked very productively with President Bush when we had the majority and he had the presidency. We passed one of the biggest energy bills in the history of our country. We passed one of the biggest tax bills in terms of stimulus for low-income people as well as middle-income people in his presidency. And the list goes on. PEPFAR, he wanted PEPFAR, we want it big. And there's so many issues that we work together, even though I vehemently opposed him in the war in Iraq. But the point is that we worked together. The president said, I'll wait for them to send me something. Well, we have ideas, and we can send them something. But the fact is, if we'd like to work together so our legislation will be bipartisan. We're not going for the lowest common denominator. We're going for the boldest common denominator. Our position will be a consensus within our own party of what we can support, but also welcoming other ideas. So we look forward to a new era in terms of what has happened. It's this past 2 years has seemed like a very, very long time in terms of the path it has taken us down. When I think of our founders and their courage, their vision, what they had in mind for us, si pluribus unum, for many one. When I think of the American people and how beautifully diverse we are and how newcomers to our country have constantly reinvigorated America, when I think of our beautiful planet and, of course, our own country, God's gift to us, and how it has been neglected and degraded in this past couple of years, I think that there's plenty of opportunity for us to match our legislation with the rhetoric that we are hearing. It might surprise you to know that the president I quoted the most on the campaign trail, who would you think? Ronald Reagan. And I won't read you the whole quote, but I'll read you just one paragraph. Ronald Reagan said, "This is the last speech that I will make as President of the United States, and I want to, it's fitting to leave one final thought, an observation about a country which I love." Last speech, that's quite a headliner, right, in your business? Ronald Reagan's last speech. He said, "Thanks to each new wave of new arrivals to this land of opportunity, we're a nation forever young, forever bursting with energy and new ideas, and always on the cutting edge, always leading the world to the next frontier. This quality is vital to our future as a nation." Goes on to say, "If we ever close the door to new Americans, our leadership in the world would soon be lost." If we ever close the door, our leadership would soon be lost. So in that respect for the vision of our founders, the diversity of our country, the beauty of our land, the values in our Constitution first and foremost, we think there's an opportunity to work together. One sign of good faith on the part of the President to work together was for them to withdraw their assault on the pre-existing condition benefit, which the Republican attorneys general across the country have put forth, and which this administration has said they will defend the law of the land. They'll join in that lawsuit. That's just wrong. That's just wrong. So we think, again, as a sign of good faith and in keeping with what they're saying on the campaign trail, prove it, withdraw the lawsuit. So that would be one place that we could start. In any event, next week we look forward to welcoming our new class of freshmen. We will celebrate their diversity, the freshness of their thinking, and the rest. And they will immediately be incorporated into our building of consensus on how we go forward in a very open, transparent, bipartisan, unifying Congress. Any questions? Yes, sir, because I didn't review last night.
The President launched a press conference about Democratic investigation into the White House and Trump administration. He said that it could halt government. He also said that his tax returns wouldn't be released necessarily because it's under continuous audit. So my question is, are you concerned about the Democratic overreach in any way in your investigations? And two, how far are you willing to take the push to get the president's tax returns in this new Democratic majority?
The president also said this was a good day for Republicans. So let's put that in perspective as well. We have a constitutional responsibility to have oversight. That's the balance of power. I'm an appropriator. It was one of the places I was forged in the Congress, on the Appropriations Committee as well as on the Intelligence Committee. Both places whose hallmarks were bipartisanship. Nothing. We could always, left to our own devices, find our solutions. That, of course, has changed now when the poison pills rain down from on high. But in appropriations and in many of the other all of the other committees, we have a responsibility for oversight. And hopefully, in the course of asking for information, we can just make the request and the information will come in. We're concerned about what's happening at EPA, for example, to degrading of the air we breathe and the water we drink, despite what the president said today. So that's only one example. I don't think we'll have any scattershot freelancing in terms of this. We will have a responsibility to honor our oversight responsibilities, and that's the path that we will go down. We're, again, trying to unify our country.
How far will you go to try to get those tax returns?
Look, when our committees, I'm a big believer in the committee system, always have been. Our committees will make their decisions and make their recommendations to the caucus. But you can be sure of one thing. When we go down any of these paths, we'll know what we're doing, and we'll do it right.
There's going to be a historic number of women in Congress.
30.
I want to know, how are they going to change the institution? And also, with you and your leadership team staying at the top, how are they going to have room for advancement?
Well, I have always advanced members into the leadership. They have to decide they want to run. Many people like making their mark in their committees, and that's a decision they have to make. But to your first part of your question, what some people have said to me, and I appreciate your question, Some people have said to me, now that we have more women coming in, will we have more emphasis on things like child care and this or that? We have a big emphasis on that, and we need to make it stronger in the majority. But that's across the board in our caucus. I don't want women only to be viewed, as important as that is, and it's vitally important to women's role in the workplace. I want women to not just be talking about those issues, because we view every issue as a women's issue. We believe the national security of our country is a women's issue. The economic security of our country, national security, economic security, issues that relate to energy and the rest, they're women's issues. So what I have always tried to do with everyone here is to, if they're interested, and try to introduce them to be interested, is to have a security credential, whether it's on armed services, intelligence, foreign affairs, veterans affairs, Mr. Cummings' Committee of Government Oversight, judiciary and fighting terrorism, to have a security credential. I think this is very important for the face of security in our country, not to just be the men who've been doing it all along, with all due respect to their terrific leadership, but for women to take command and have standing on those issues. And many of our new members coming in bring standing with them already. Some do, some do not. I do think that in terms of the economy and our committees, we have Maxine Waters at Financial Services, so there's already a record of high leadership on issues that relate to the economic security of our country. We have, I think, 4 new women members on the Ways and Means Committee just this past year, when usually there'd be 1 or maybe 1 or 2, but an infusion of 4 more new members. So again, in all of these issues, I want women to take ownership of what would be traditionally not as highly visible roles for them. And that's one of the ways that they will change the Congress, so that when the White House or the administration, whatever administration is, has to report to leadership in the Congress at any level about the safety of our country, they'll be talking to the full diversity of our country, our women, people of color, LGBTQ, and I think that's a very positive thing, because people in the public will see people who share their values, their experience, their concern, making decisions about the safety and security of our country.
Many of the women that have been elected have said that they're not sure they can support you to be the Speaker of the House. You were the first woman Speaker of the House. Are you confident that you are going to be the next Speaker of the House? What do you think of those women?
Yes, indeed. To those women, congratulations on your election. Welcome.
Just to the moment, your case to members as to why you should be Speaker.
I've answered that question. Let me just say this in one sentence. I heard the President say, I deserve to be the Speaker. I don't think anybody deserves anything. It's not about what you have done. It's what you can do. What you have done in the past speaks to your credentials, but it's about what you can do. And I think I'm the best person to go forward to unify, to negotiate. I'm a good negotiator, as anyone can see in terms of how we have won every negotiation so far. The only one we didn't win, because it wasn't a negotiation, was the GOP tax scam in the dark of night and speed of light, as I said earlier. So I think that my case is about being the best person for how we go forward, and I'm not going to answer any more questions on that subject. We saw something this morning that challenges the conscience of our country. We saw something this morning that shows a differentiation in respect for the diversity of our country. We have to try to bridge that gap, to bring people together, and that I think I can do a good job at that. But I'm not going to spend any, I'd rather answer questions about policy and the rest. And the record will speak for itself.
Madam,
Yes,
just to follow up on what the President said this morning, he made clear that if Democrats launch investigations, that any hopes for bipartisanship is off. Do you have any concerns that these investigations could jeopardize your opportunities to legislate?
We do not intend to abandon or relinquish our responsibility as Article 1, the first branch of government, and our responsibilities. for accountability, for oversight, and the rest. This doesn't mean we go looking for a fight, but it means that if we see a need to go forward, we will. But that will be the work of our committees. Every committee has oversight responsibility. Congresswoman Esch is on Energy and Commerce, and that's a big oversight committee, as some of you probably are aware. But specifically to some of the concerns that the President may have, the Judiciary Committee, the Intelligence Committee, the Oversight Committee, well, there are a number of committees that, depending on how we go down the path, the Financial Services Committee, did I say Intelligence? Oh, Homeland Security Committee, because of course we are shamed as a nation by a policy that takes babies out of the arms of their mothers, that builds tents and all the rest to house people that they're in their separation of families. So we want to look into that. And we would hope that we could do so by simply having oversight. If, in fact, it requires a subpoena, I hope not, but so be it.
In hindsight, do you think it was a mistake for governments to stay silent on all the heated rhetoric from the president and some Republican senators? I mean, the Republicans kept the control of the Senate, and some of them ran on this anti-immigrant rhetoric. So are you, in hindsight, maybe thinking that that was a mistake for governments to stay silent?
No, I do not. I urged our colleagues not to take the bait on what the president was putting out there. It's a very dangerous issue on the campaign trail because of the misrepresentations that are put out there. You don't win a fight by fighting that same fight. You win by sticking with the program for the people, lower health care costs, bigger paychecks, cleaner government. That produced a big victory for us in spite of the gerrymandering that the Republicans have done. I have no regret.
To again vote on the border wall and border security funding that he claims Democrats push back on.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't know. I didn't watch his press conference. I don't know exactly what he said, but what I will say is this. One of the biggest resources that we have, when I say we, the American people, and we as representatives, is public sentiment. You've heard me say, many of you again and again, Abraham Lincoln, President Lincoln said, public sentiment is everything. With it, you can accomplish almost anything. Without it, practically nothing. And I do believe that one of the reasons that we will be successful in our negotiations is because the people will see the impact of what is being proposed on their lives, on their values, on our country. And so that is,
So we have a new day in Washington. You see Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi hoping to be the next House Speaker. You saw her say there she believes she's the best person for the job, coming off the victory by Democrats in the House races last night. Although she did say she would not be answering more questions on it, would simply let the results speak for themselves. Talked about how she wanted to unify the country. Talked about how last night for the Democrats was a victory for health care. Said she wasn't looking for a fight with the president, but Democrats are not going to relinquish their responsibility to hold the president and his administration accountable, not going to relinquish their Article I responsibilities under the Constitution. I'm here with Cecilia Vega right now. It seems like you've got both the president now saying, if the Congress investigates, I'm not going to work with them. Nancy Pelosi saying we can do both, but we're not going to back away. A little bit of a game of chicken.
It's exactly a game of chicken, and I guarantee you the president is not going to back down, and I don't think the Democrats are going to back down. So I think we are exactly where we were, at a Congress with a White House that is probably not going to get much done over the next few years.
John Carl, is this White House ready for the kind of oversight they're going to face from the House? They've had such a different situation over the last couple of years, having House Republicans on those investigative committees basically in many ways doing their bidding. Now they're going to be focusing intently on everyone in the White House, subpoenas. Do they even have the lawyers to handle that?
Well, George, they have been preparing for that. We do have Emmett Flood, a veteran of the Clinton impeachment process, on the White House counsel staff. who will be taking the lead in this, but I don't think they're fully prepared for this. And I got the sense, listening to the president, that he hasn't fully processed what this all means. When I asked him about his tax returns, and he gave a long answer about how complicated they all are. I don't know if he
You know, John,
fully
can I interrupt you
understands.
right there? Because it
Yeah.
seemed like the president almost didn't understand your question. If the House Ways and Means Committee goes forward, he doesn't really have a choice. His only choice would then be to go to court and try to block them.
Right. His choice will be to comply with a subpoena or to fight a subpoena in court. And he seemed to imply, well, look, his lawyers will advise him not to turn it over, as if this was an extension of the debate that played out during the campaign, where people asked him, are you going to release his tax returns? He said various answers, and obviously never did release them. In that case, it was his choice. He was just a candidate. These were just requests. Now he'll be facing committee chairs who are empowered to issue subpoenas to compel him to release those tax returns.
We will see what happens next. John Carlson, see you, Vega. Thanks very much. We're going to go back to our regular program right now. Much more tonight on World News Tonight with David Muir. Have a good day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
Happy birthday, Father. You were taken from us way too soon by a man.